It was a collision of legends. The air buzzed with anticipation as the greatest boxer of all time, Mike Tyson, faced off against one of the most dominant mixed martial artists to ever step foot in the cage, Jon "Bones" Jones. Two athletes from completely different worlds, each a master in their own craft, now set to clash in what could only be described as a battle for supremacy. Tyson, a ferocious knockout artist who had once ruled the boxing world with an iron fist. Jones, a tactical genius in the octagon, using his unorthodox style to dismantle opponents with precision and ruthless efficiency. This was no ordinary matchup. This was a war between two titans who were about to test each other's limits. In Tyson's corner, the legacy of the baddest man on the planet loomed large. Known for his blistering speed, power, and unpredictable ferocity, Tyson had struck fear into the hearts of his opponents. His reign in the heavyweight division in the 1980s left fans in awe, witnessing devastating knockouts and a level of aggression that had never been seen before. But that was then, and now, years removed from his peak, Tyson found himself in the spotlight again, only this time, facing a fighter unlike any he'd ever encountered before. On the other side of the ring was Jones, a man who had rewritten the rules of mixed martial arts. With an unparalleled combination of size, speed, and technique, he had become the youngest fighter in UFC history to win a world title. His ability to adapt and break down opponents was legendary, and his dominance in the light heavyweight division had made him nearly untouchable. Yet despite all of his success, questions lingered. Could his skills in the octagon translate to a fight against a man with Tyson's raw, brutal power? Would his discipline and strategic mind be enough to handle the chaos Tyson brought into every fight? The question on everyone's mind wasn't just who would win, but how would these two styles, so vastly different, collide? Would Tyson's knockout power be enough to take down a fighter known for his elusive footwork and unorthodox strikes? Or would Jones's versatility and tactical genius allow him to navigate the storm that Tyson would inevitably bring? As the fight drew closer, the tension grew. Tyson, though older, still looked every bit the part of a ferocious fighter. His training camps were intense, his punches still as lethal as ever. But there were whispers that age had caught up with him. Could he still summon the speed and explosiveness that made him a legend? Meanwhile, Jones continued to refine his craft, pushing himself to the limits of physical and mental endurance. His preparation was meticulous, his focus razor-sharp. And yet, no matter how much training he did, no one could answer one key question. How would he handle a man who could end the fight with a single punch? The excitement around the matchup was palpable. Fans from every corner of the globe were ready to witness this spectacle. Would Tyson's ferocity still be enough to overwhelm his opponent? Or would Jones's calculated approach and ability to read his adversary prove too much? The buildup was filled with heated debates, theories, and predictions, with each side claiming their fighter would emerge victorious. Some argued that Tyson's raw power was the ultimate equalizer, while others insisted that Jones's technical brilliance would eventually win out. And then, the fight night arrived. The atmosphere was electric as the two fighters made their way to the arena. Tyson entered with his signature scowl, the kind that sent shivers down the spine of anyone who dared to stand in front of him. His eyes, fierce and focused, told the story of a man who was hungry to prove that he was still the king of the ring. Jones, on the other hand, walked in with the calm confidence of a seasoned veteran, knowing that he had prepared for every possible scenario. The crowd was on the edge of their seats, unsure of what to expect, but knowing one thing for sure: this fight would be historic. As the fighters faced off in the center of the ring, the silence was deafening. Tyson, who had spent his career relying on his explosive power and speed, locked eyes with Jones, who was known for his ability to control the pace of a fight and make his opponents fight his fight. It was a perfect contrast of styles, raw power versus calculated precision. Both men knew the stakes. Tyson had the opportunity to cement his place as one of the greatest to ever fight. while Jones was determined to prove that his versatility and skill could overcome the most dangerous opponent of his career. With the bell about to ring, the world held its breath. The question remained, would Tyson's legendary knockout power be enough to overcome Jones's unorthodox approach, or would the fight play out in ways no one could have predicted? As the two combatants stood ready, the answer seemed just out of reach. One moment could change everything. Would it be Tyson's crushing fist that delivered the final blow, or would Jones's precision and adaptability prevail? The world waited, poised on the brink of history. The fight was about to begin. The bell rang, and the crowd erupted as the two legends finally stepped into the arena, ready to engage in a battle of epic proportions. Tyson came out aggressive, his movements sharp and explosive, just as he'd been in his prime. He wasted no time, looking to land his signature left hook, the punch that had felled some of the greatest heavyweights in boxing history. His strategy was simple: take control of the fight early and make his opponent feel his power. The arena seemed to pulse with the tension as Tyson's fists cut through the air, each one a potential end to the fight. But Jones wasn't fazed. He moved with the grace and precision that had made him a champion in the UFC. His footwork was a thing of beauty, effortlessly circling Tyson and avoiding the devastating blows. Jones's eyes never left Tyson, his mind working at a rapid pace, analyzing every move, every feint. He didn't just react to Tyson's strikes. He read them, predicting the next move before it even happened. It became clear this wasn't going to be a fight of brute force versus brute force. No, this was going to be a chess match, with Tyson playing with power and Jones using his mind as his weapon. The tension continued to mount as the rounds passed. Tyson landed a few solid shots, and for a moment, it seemed like Jones might be in trouble. The crowd gasped as Tyson's fist grazed Jones's cheek, sending him stumbling back for the briefest moment. But Jones regained his footing almost instantly, a smirk creeping across his face. Tyson's strength was undeniable, but the question remained: could he catch Jones before the tactical genius found his rhythm? Suddenly, the unexpected happened. Jones, having anticipated Tyson's aggressive onslaught, feinted a jab and then threw a spinning back kick, a move that Tyson had never seen coming. The kick landed with a thud, catching Tyson off guard and sending him crashing to the canvas. The crowd went wild. For the first time in the fight, Tyson was on the ground, struggling to regain his balance. He had been in fights before, but never had he been outwitted like this. Jones, always the technician, had shown that his unpredictability was just as dangerous as Tyson's raw power. Tyson's corner was frantic, but the ferocity that had made him a champion began to surface again. His eyes burned with determination, his fists tightening as he climbed back to his feet. He wasn't just fighting for victory now, he was fighting for pride. The fight had taken a turn. Tyson was no longer just trying to knock Jones out, he was now playing catch-up. And the clock was ticking. As the fight dragged on, Jones continued to frustrate Tyson. His angles were flawless, his timing impeccable. Every time Tyson lunged forward, Jones was there, slipping just out of range, landing a quick jab or an elbow before retreating again. It was a game of cat and mouse, but Jones was the one calling the shots. The longer the fight went on, the more it seemed that Tyson's legendary power was being neutralized by Jones's superior tactics and conditioning. But Tyson wasn't out yet. His corner had whispered something to him, something that sparked a fire deep within. Tyson's next move was something that caught everyone off guard. Instead of his usual all-out aggression, he began to slow down, waiting for the perfect opportunity. The strategy was different. Instead of charging, Tyson started to move with purpose, not throwing punches at random, but setting traps, looking for an opening. He'd always been a fighter who went for the knockout, but now he was playing a different game. He was trying to outthink Jones, something that was rarely seen in Tyson's fights. The atmosphere in the arena shifted. Fans began to sense that something was brewing. The moment that everyone had been waiting for, when the fight would shift from a tactical duel to an all-out brawl, was approaching. And it wasn't just Tyson's punches people had to watch for now. The slow, deliberate movements, the new rhythm that Tyson had adopted, made him even more dangerous. Jones, on the other hand, continued to look for openings, adjusting his movements with the grace of a seasoned veteran. He had the edge in terms of cardio and technique, but Tyson had one thing that no one could measure: heart. As the rounds wore on, Jones began to notice the shift. Tyson wasn't just following him, Tyson was thinking 2 steps ahead. For the first time, Jones seemed to be hesitating. There was a subtle shift in his demeanor, a slight crack in his confidence. He had been dominating, but now he was forced to reconsider his approach. Tyson was playing his own game, and Jones was unsure of how to counter. The tension continued to build as each round passed. Fans were on the edge of their seats, their eyes darting between the two fighters, unsure of what would happen next. Tyson's power was undeniable, but Jones's strategic brilliance was becoming even more impressive. The stage was set for a final confrontation, one that neither fighter could back down from. The clock ticked down, and everyone knew that the next move would be the one that determined the fight. Would Tyson's raw strength and fury land the final blow? Or would Jones's calculated movements prove to be too much for the former champion? The answer was just a moment away, but it remained unclear. The fight was no longer just about strength or technique. It had become a battle of wills, a test of who could outlast the other. Both men were nearing their breaking points, and with every second that ticked by, the stakes grew higher. The crowd was silent now, waiting, as if they too could feel the inevitable conclusion drawing near. The final round had arrived, and the arena seemed to hold its breath. Tyson and Jones stood facing each other, both weary yet both still burning with a desire to win. The stakes were clear now. This wasn't just a fight to prove who was the better fighter, but a battle for legacy, pride, and the very essence of what it meant to be a champion. The roar of the crowd had quieted to a hum, each spectator feeling the weight of what was unfolding before them. Tyson had adapted. His earlier raw aggression was now tempered with calculated precision, but he still carried the same intensity that had defined his career. Every movement he made was measured, deliberate. Jones, on the other hand, had maintained his composure, his game plan intact. He had danced around Tyson, using his speed and footwork to stay out of harm's way. But as the fight went on, the cracks in his armor began to show. Tyson's relentless pressure had started to pay off. The precision of Jones's strikes seemed less sharp, his movements a little slower, and his confidence was starting to waver. Then, in a moment of desperation, Jones lunged forward, attempting to secure a takedown. It was a risky move, one that could either seal his victory or be the catalyst for his downfall. Tyson, anticipating the move, timed it perfectly. As Jones closed the distance, Tyson slipped inside and threw a devastating uppercut, one that landed squarely on Jones's chin. The force of the punch sent shockwaves through the arena. Jones staggered back, his legs buckling as the crowd erupted in disbelief. For a moment, everything seemed to freeze in time. Jones, though staggered, wasn't out yet. His resolve was strong, and he managed to regain his footing, but it was clear the uppercut had taken everything out of him. Tyson, sensing his opponent's vulnerability, advanced, his movements now more purposeful than ever. He wasn't just throwing punches now. He was putting everything he had into every strike, each one a potential end to the fight. In a final, explosive exchange, Tyson unleashed a barrage of punches, each one pushing Jones further back. Jones tried to circle, but his movement had slowed, his once fluid footwork now a step behind. With one last furious swing, Tyson connected with a brutal right hook, sending Jones crashing to the canvas. The referee rushed in, counting, but it was clear Jones wasn't getting up. The fight had ended. Tyson had done it. Against all odds, he had proven that his power and heart were still enough to overcome the brilliance of one of the greatest fighters of all time. The roar of the crowd was deafening, but Tyson's expression was one of quiet triumph. As if he knew this victory wasn't just about the fight, it was about reclaiming a part of himself he thought was long gone. But as Tyson raised his arms in victory, something unexpected happened. Jones, bloodied but not broken, slowly got to his feet. His eyes were filled with respect, not defeat. He looked directly at Tyson and offered him a nod, a silent acknowledgement of the man he had just fought and the legend who had triumphed. The crowd, still buzzing with excitement, witnessed a moment of mutual respect between two warriors who had just pushed each other to the very limit. It was a reminder that in combat sports, as in life, sometimes the greatest battles are not just won with fists, but with heart, with resilience, and with respect for your opponent. Tyson had shown the world that he still had the heart of a champion, and Jones, despite the loss, had reaffirmed his place among the best. In the end, both men had given everything they had, and in doing so, they had created one of the most unforgettable moments in combat sports history. As Tyson made his way out of the ring, victorious yet humbled, he knew this fight was more than just a victory on paper. It was a defining moment that would echo through the ages. And for Jones, though the loss stung, he understood the true meaning of the fight.